Chúng tôi đang ở Liên Hiệp Quốc dự thượng đỉnh tương lai. Xin quý anh chị có thể vào Wi-Fi của Liên Hiệp Quốc. Tiếp theo, chúng tôi xin giới thiệu cô Penny Đoàn, sinh viên y khoa, nói về tương lai của mục tiêu bền vững 5 và 10 trong một Việt Nam dân chủ. Kính mời chị Penny Đoàn.
Hello everyone. Xin kính chào các quý anh chị. My name is Penny Tudone, and I am a 4-year medical student at the University of Oklahoma. So I would like to speak to you a little bit today to gather and shine a light on a critical issues that often goes unnoticed, the systematic oppressions of women in Vietnam. I want us to explore the harsh realities faced by many Vietnamese women. These include political repressions, economic exploitations, human trafficking, and systemic violence, while also envisioning a brighter future, a future where women are not just ceremonial figures, but empowered leaders, a future where they are not forced into labor or debt bondage, but are free to thrive in a democratic society that values gender equality. This is not just a story of oppression, it's a call for action. I'll dive into how we can support Vietnamese women in reclaiming their rights, their safety, and their voices through democracy, the rule of law, and international collaborations. By standing with them, we can help create a future where gender equality, justice, and freedom are not just aspirations, but realities. Now, to truly understand the challenges facing women in Vietnam today, we must first examine how their rights are systematically suppressed under the current regime, beginning with the political repressions of female activists. Hanoi continues its crackdown on activists who challenge the authority, as shown by the recent sentencing of female environmental activists. Over 30 of Vietnam's more than 200 political prisoners are women who are fighting for basic rights, social justice, and a clean environment. These women's struggles represent the broader fight for freedom and democracy in Vietnam, where political discourse is suppressed and women are marginalized. Women are not only politically oppressed, but also used by the regime to serve as gold. The government often appoints women to ceremonial roles rather than meaningful leadership positions. In a democratic Vietnam, women could be empowered to lead and pursue opportunities that match their capabilities. In addition to being marginalized in political spheres, many women in Vietnam face severe economic hardships that further limit their opportunities and autonomy. Poverty forces many women into long hours in factories, separating them from their families and trapping them in debt bondage imposed by state-regulated agencies. Despite claims of reform, and Vietnam claims to be addressing high brokerage fees, the financial burden remains. Many are left with no choice but to resort to prostitution to survive. Economic exploitation doesn't stop in the factory. Women are also trapped in more dangerous forms of oppression, such as human trafficking. Women and girls also fall victim to labor and sex trafficking, working as migrant laborers or household servants in places as far as North Africa and the Middle East. In 2022 and 2023, the U.S. Department of State placed Vietnam on its Tier 3 watch list for human trafficking due to its failure to meet the minimum standards for eliminating trafficking. Although Vietnam was upgraded to Tier 2 this year, it still has a long way to go to fully address this issue. Alongside trafficking, violence against women and children remains a persistent issue, with rising cases of abuse that go unpunished in the current system. Vietnam is known destination for child sex tourism, with a culture of impunity, particularly for political officials. The fine for sexual abuse is just 200,000 Vien Dong, or about $9. Studies show that 87% of women and girls face sexual harassment in public, and official numbers indicate 68% of children experience physical abuse. Violence against women and children is increasing each year, and Vietnam underscored protection systems are struggling to respond. The lack of protections for women's health and safety extend beyond violence, as the government also imposes restriction on their reproductive rights, limiting their autonomy over family planning. A proposed 2020 bill would limit families to 2 children, further skewing the gender ratio, with more males being born than females. In a democracy, gender equality would be a national priority. Compounding these challenges is the gender gap in education, where women and girls continue to face barriers to achieving the same levels of education as men. Women have significantly lower levels of education compared to men, with many falling into the group that only completes lower secondary school. A future democratic Vietnam would prioritize gender equality in education as part of national policy. With all these issues in mind, the plight of women in Vietnam is a call that demands our attentions and action. From political repressions and economic exploitation to human trafficking and violence, the challenges they face are daunting, but not insurmountable. To truly empower Vietnamese women and bring about equality, we must focus on promoting democracy and supporting civil society organizations that defend their rights. As we celebrated International Democracy Day last week, we are reminded that 100 million Vietnamese are not free. Vietnam's history is rich with examples of female leadership like the Trong sisters. Today, we must honor that legacy by standing with women fighting for their freedom. Our call to action is clear. We must hold the Vietnamese regime accountable for its ongoing human rights abuses. Through international pressure, legislations like the Global Magnitsky Act, and unwavering support for civil society organizations, we can help pave the way for a democratic Vietnam, one that values the strength, resilience, and leadership of its women. Thank you for listening.